लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। चलने लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। पल पल दिल मेरा तरसी, पल पल तुम याद आए। चलने लगी, चलने लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। चलने लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। पल पल दिल मेरा तरसी, पल पल तुम याद आए। चलने लगी, चलने लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। चलने लगी है हवाएं, सागर भी लहराए। पल पल दिल मेरा तरसी, पल पल तुम याद आए। चलने लगी।
This is the music force. Hold on one another, I love you, love of each other. Let's dance together. This is the music force. Hold on one another, I love you, love of each other. Let's dance together.
In 1845, The first group of Indian indentured laborers arrived in Trinidad, marking the beginning of Indian Arrival Day. The ship Fatel Razak carried 225 passengers who had endured a grueling 103-day journey from Calcutta, India. Upon arrival in the Gulf of Paria, the immigrants were greeted by the lush, unfamiliar landscape of Trinidad. Their journey was perilous, with several passengers succumbing to the harsh conditions at sea. They disembarked at Nelson Island, where they were fed and rested before being assigned to various estates across Trinidad. This significant day is now commemorated annually as Indian Arrival Day, celebrating the immense contributions of these early immigrants to Trinidad's culture and economy. On May 30th each year, the event is marked by reenactments of the Fatel Razak's landing, vibrant music, dance, and honoring community leaders. The arrival of the Fatel Razak introduced a new labor force crucial to the island's sugar plantations, but it also brought a rich cultural heritage. Over the next 72 years, more than 140,000 Indians followed, significantly shaping Trinidad's social and cultural landscape. They brought with them their traditions, cuisine, music, and festivals, which have become integral to Trinidadian society. Indian Arrival Day was officially recognized as a public holiday in 1994. It stands as a day of remembrance and celebration of the resilience and contributions of the Indian community. This day isn't just about reflecting on the past, but also appreciating the diverse cultural tapestry of Trinidad and Tobago today. What do you think about this incredible journey and its impact on Trinidad and Tobago's culture? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know what other historical events you'd like to hear about. Follow and like for more fascinating insights into Caribbean history.
Good evening, TNT family. Welcome to Yellow is the Code and UNC USA. We're having a little special Indian arrival celebration today. And if you have a story, you would like to share about your relatives, please let us know. We are acknowledging the sacrifice and the hard work of our foreparents and the difficulty for us to get a recognition. Finally, in 1994, we got recognized for Indian Arrival Day in Trinidad and Tobago. So with me, I have Mr. Suman Singh. Mr. Singh, welcome back to Yellow is the Code on UNC USA. And Mr. Singh, we would like to hear a little bit about your version of our culture and things like that. Maybe you can give us a little history, a little background.
Yeah, but I'm not not too much a cultural fan, so you may not hear much from me because I was always traveling in and out and around. So I really never was there in mainstream East Indian culture per se. I left when I was 19 and came back after 12 years, and I left again for another 15 years. Then I came back. So it was all in and out, in and out, in and out. But I never forget my roots, of course, and the struggles of my parents and foreparents that went before, and the sacrifices they made for me to be where I am today. One thing I can tell you is that our family plays a lot of resources in our education. So our motto was on basically education, which we live by. And all my brothers, and they were in, teaching. Their wives were also teachers and so on. My family was big into teaching and supervision, school supervision, and what have you. I am the only one who did not stay in teaching much. As you may know, Gary, I taught at the school where you went to, Montrose Vedic, for a while. But somehow or the other, I got a call from the Ministry of Education to work in my early years. So I worked there for like 7 or 8 years in the ministry in various positions. So that's my early introduction to work, and it's time you had to leave down south and go to work in Port of Spain every day, and it's after a while it becomes so tiring. It's I couldn't really make it much more. So I left and came, went to university there in UV at St. Augustine. I did my economics degree, and I got a posting in Tobago as the Tobago's first economist. So I worked with
All that's part of our history. All that's part of
yeah. Again, Mr. Robinson he was the head of the THA, so I was his economist, and his wife was also an economist. So my first couple of projects, he was very impressed when she saw it, and he in his wisdom said, Mr. Singh, what can we do to keep you in Tobago? Well, little did he know I like Tobago so much that since I was age 12, I never missed a Great Race weekend, the Great Race for 14 consecutive years. So he didn't know that, but I said, I'll think about it and so on. And I did all my professional work in Tobago. I was the economist. I was the first senior project analyst. I was the first director of tourism. I was the first director of ICT and so on. So, it all goes well for me to continue living in that environment and keeping what his remarks were. And so I kept up my promise to when he said, what can we do to keep you here? I was there on my own, really. He didn't have to do anything to keep me there because I like the environment which I worked for. One, the traveling was not as much from south to Port of Spain every day. I was literally 5 minutes to work. So it was a much pleasing experience as far as work goes. And, the
But tell us a
interaction.
little bit about your about your early days at Montrose Vidic. There was a very culturally rich school,
Oh,
and
yes.
maybe you can
Yes.
give us a little about that.
Well, I went to Avocat Village School, which is just 5 houses from the school was 5 houses from home. And I always had my companion, my dog used to go to school with me, and he was to sit outside the classroom and wait until lunchtime to come back with me and go back and wait till 2:30 again to school to finish. So I was indoctrinated in going to village schools, and from that perspective, you are indoctrinated early in life as to the cultural activities.
I mean that was managed by the Arya Samaj.
Yeah, yes, and my dad was a lifelong member, that's a senior member, and they helped build the Avocat Village School. So when I finished my A levels, I got in. That's my first job assignment. At age 19, I started teaching after I did my A levels, and my first posting was in Montrose Village School. And it was a nice, thrilling experience. First time teacher, first job. It was always an excitement to go to work every day. You feel you're part and parcel of that environment because you had grown up in that environment. So nothing was literally new to you with respect to the cultural side of things. There were the prayers, the various prayers, and the bhajans and what have you was exactly what you grew up in that setting. So you didn't feel at loss in anything. You felt at home. So that was my introduction, really. After having finished high school in Superior at Irie High School, I went to Irie High School in my teens to do O levels and A levels, and I was one of the fortunate ones at that time to write the exam GC after 4 years, and and was very successful and so on. So that was my stepping stone from Avocad to Irie High School to Ministry of Education, and then to university there, and after that, then Tobago. And after that, I went to Washington, D.C. to pursue my MBA and so on. I was one of the very first few graduates who did computers and information systems at that time in 1980s. There was just one or two persons in Trinidad who had that qualification. And the Honorable Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Robinson, wanted me to work in his office when I came back. So I did that for a while as well. And, Gary, I did a master plan at that time, how we can reform the public service. And I showed him now with this new technologies around it, with using computers in the workplace, how, we can save a lot in, I should say, labor, because with computers replacing typewriters and all these things, you are able to do a lot more with a lot less physical bodies. And all his advisors lauded that approach, but you can imagine that was good on one hand and bad on the other side, because if it implemented, it would have resulted in a lot of layoffs for people. So the plan was never put into being.
Technology is something you have to use it to your advantage to a certain point. Where it serves as an aid and not much so to replace people, but to enable them to perform better. If you use it in that context, I think it will be a better thing. But as far as the cultural thing is, I remember growing up with my grandparents. I mean, at one point we had a very big orchestra in the Shogunas market, where it wasn't the Lina Dan. I think another orchestra that played there, man. I was so fascinated with the performance, the drum set, and the cultural things, very rich cultural things in central Trinidad.
Oh yeah.
They used to clear up the place and have cultural things. I think it was around Diwali time, if I don't make a mistake. But eventually, there was get to learn about the Felicity festivals. Then there was the main road thing with KWAL Singh, and then putting on these shows, and very rich cultural performance. These things die out, but at the time, there were people like Baby Sandra and the Indian Bollywood. It wasn't called Bollywood in them days, but the Indian movie songs and performance and things like that were taking place. As far as that aspect, is concerned. So Central has always been a very rich cultural place.
Actually, in my village had a full-blown orchestra as well. About another 6 or 7 houses further down the road from me, it was the Gemini Orchestra.
Is this it way back that time? But I remember the actual, I think it was Naya Zamana.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. They played in the central market there.
Yeah, because one of the leaders there is a distant relative of mine, Nasalu Ramaya.
And one of the old guys I remember from Shogunas is a guy named Lakankaria.
Okay, well.
Yeah, he was one of the old cultural singers I remember many years ago when I was growing up.
I have to attend this.
Okay. It's okay.
Our community, my commitment.
In 1845, The first group of Indian indentured laborers arrived in Trinidad, marking the beginning of Indian Arrival Day. The ship Fatel Razak carried 225 passengers who had endured a grueling 103-day journey from Calcutta, India. Upon arrival in the Gulf of Paria, the immigrants were greeted by the lush, unfamiliar landscape of Trinidad. Their journey was perilous, with several passengers succumbing to the harsh conditions at sea. They disembarked at Nelson Island, where they...
I'm back in.
assigned to various estates across Trinidad. This significant day is now commemorated annually as Indian Arrival Day, celebrating the immense contributions of these early immigrants to Trinidad's culture and economy. On May 30th each year, the event is marked by reenactments of the Fatel Razak's landing, vibrant music, dance, and honoring community leaders. The arrival of the Fatel Razak introduced a new labor force crucial to the island's sugar plantations, but it also brought a rich cultural heritage. Over the next 72 years, more than 140,000 Indians followed, significantly shaping Trinidad's social and cultural landscape. They brought with them their traditions, cuisine, music, and fashion.
Are you back with us, Mr. Singh?
Yes, I'm back here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so we had an orchestra by us, and so they, that was kind of pivotal point in that every weekend and so on, you go and listen to them practicing and so on. There was not too much to do on weekends other than playing cricket.
That's how our families entertain themselves. They all sing. I mean, I used to go by my father's cousin down, like in the settlement area there, but they would tell the stories of how the Indian people entertain themselves.
Exactly.
That's how everybody learned to sing and everything, because that's what they did. There was no TV and not much radio there at them time, and everybody entertained each other, whether it was dance, singing, or acrobatics at some point.
Yeah, and these are the only activities at that time. You played cricket a lot in the road. There was not much cars anyway to disturb the game. And that was it. You studied from school. When you came from school, you played. You always had a lot of land and a lot of fruit trees around the place. So you'll always find yourself after school at home, a lot of plums and pomsity and oranges and things to keep you occupied, So that's what life was, very simple and basic. Go to school, come home, do your work, eat, play. At evening time, you do your studies again, get set for the next day, and like that. So
yeah, when we grew up, I mean, most of us was not rich, but the fact that we had a safe, rich culture, a safe environment, and that is what made things so memorable in Trinidad. I mean, we had a very good life growing up. You could plant your own food. I mean, there wasn't people like trying to attack you like nowadays where we see what we're dealing with, So I mean, it's a different world, but it was a safer country at the time. But I heard stories about my great grandfather that came from India. He was very tall, strapped guy, and the British had forced him to do the sugar cane. Hold on a second. Yeah, so they had forced him to load the sugar cane, and he made a bundle so big that the white guy there could not load it, and then they made him a supervisor and give him a horse because
Right, right. Oh,
he
yeah,
was a police. He was a police from India, so he was not used to being pushed around to that extent. He had his
right.
his way of doing things, and they when he came to Trinidad, they were trying to push him around quite a bit, and he got upset and made a big bundle of cane and threw it on the cart and tell the guy there, if you can do that, then I will work. And then they made him a supervisor. So I mean, these are some of the little
Stories.
stories told
Yeah,
by your great uncles and stuff like that about your relatives coming from India. But I was always fascinated with our Indian culture, the movies. I watch as much as I can, listening to the songs and different things like that. I mean, we all basically, I grew up just hearing those limited hours that we can have on the Trinidad and Tobago radio station. We were so limited and restricted. I mean, with Indian culture. And
yes,
I guess it's after Basti Pandey, we ended up with 24-hour radio, station. But
yes,
before
yes,
that, we
yes.
didn't have that. We had a limited time. It'd be evening time and Sunday evening.
Yes, and similar on this side, yeah, my grandparents, they lived in DB. My grandfather had a horse as well. We had horses as well too. And when my grandfather died, within a week the horse died. That's what my dad told me.
These
Um,
animals, they grow close to you. I mean,
yeah, it was like that in the times. My grandmother, she was opened the first doubles, selling doubles in Davie. So if you go to Davie, you'll see welcome to the welcome sign across the road. And the very first so sings doubles is my grandmother's place. She has passed on a long time, so the grandchildren, my cousins run it from time to time. They make a lot more money than I make here in the US, so they are pretty comfortable with it. So this is the way. I mean, life was simple. We had to work hard. Everybody had to work, put in there a little bit. You know, doesn't matter what status you were, you just had to end up basically tilling the land as part of the culture. It was always there. You had to work at a planting, picking, cleaning, or preparing land for planting and so on. It was all part of the deal. None of, that's what I say, whether you were working or not, school child or not, you had to help along the way to get things going. So, those things, is memories that you really never forget, and see how hard some parents had to work, and brothers as well, elderly brothers who made sacrifices at that time, so that we are the ones who are reaping the benefits, or reap the benefits of all of that.
Welcome, Dr. Maharaj. Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
Everybody looking, you guys looking real good, man.
yeah,
You
yeah,
looking
yeah.
happy?
Yes,
You looking
right.
happy? You're sounding happy. Your arrival day is doubling up. I've seen so many happy people on arrival day in the, I think forever.
Well, it's a
These people
good.
having a good time. I mean, did you see this Minister of Home Affairs playing at Asa?
Yes, yes, yes.
You want to bet they will call him Mamu soon?
Well, they put some stigma names
Homeland
attached.
Security, not Home Affairs. That's Home Affairs is Guyana. That's Homeland Security.
Okay, Homeland Security, right? Good. Yeah.
Dr.
So
Marat said they will call him Mamu soon for playing at
yeah,
us.
yeah. As soon as they start acting up like that, they will give them a name. They will find a name for them just now.
Yeah, that's okay. They can give whatever names they want to people. At the end of the day, they were well and truly replaced and beaten, I will say, by the current crop of ministers. So they can do what they want. Yeah.
I mean, listen, our people are rejoicing, and there is more unity culturally, under this administration, where everybody's feeling at ease and comfortable to do what they're doing more so than the previous administration. So, I mean, Minister Alexander is spreading joy because he's relieved himself, of that the past government is gone and that he's part of the decision making. He's been in the force for a number of years. He knows the deal and he has an opportunity to make a difference. So, and then he's mixing with our people. It's not something he's new to because you see, it's the first time you've seen him doing that, but he has, I mean, this is a guy who has been mixing with our people for many years. He has been among our people,
Yeah.
So he's no stranger to the culture, so you might see the law enforcement side of him most of the time, but this guy, he's very social and mixes with our people. He's a very friendly guy,
Yeah. Yeah. And he was on television for a while. I mean, he is known. He has a face that is well known, pretty much well known. A lot of people tune into that what do you call it, something about the tape, beyond the tape. Yeah. So and that Marlon had got promoted. I don't know if it's a promotion or what, but the co-host with him got a big spot in the morning. Major spot. I don't know if you know that on the same television station. It is, I think, CC3 or whatever number it is. You all
C3.
might not know. Talking to a lot of American people hearing it. Yeah. Speaking of American people, before I say this, let me just tell you that I looked at the editorial today, Gary. Thanks to Gary for sending me that paper, the Trinidad Guardian. And usually, I look at the editorials after I glance through everything. I take a deep look into the editorial because the editorial really kind of say where the country and where the papers is all, or where they are in terms of the scheme of things in the country. So
Not only time, Doc, because we bias editorial too.
Yes.
yeah, but to tell you how this. I mean, let me see if I can hold on. Let me just read one sentence or two from that editorial here. If you could listen there. This is what they wrote. The recent return of the United National Congress to government, a party grounded in and representative of a large portion of the Indo-Trinidadian population, is an indication that there is acceptance of it having full authority to take control of the country. What crap I hear in here? You hear what they're saying, that we have to we were marginalized, now we qualify ourselves to take control. We didn't have, we had to move from marginalism into the central, because now we become central. We were marginal, and I'm glad they admitted that we were marginal. They didn't say, but that's what I'm saying. That's what they're interpreting it. So we are now worthy of occupying the central spot in America, like we have proven ourselves in the past. So now we're ready. For whom? Because they said to have full authority, that the indication that there is acceptance. Acceptance by whom? The papers, Trinidad Guardian, the 1%ers.
Wait a minute. What are they referring to? I didn't catch that part of it. acceptance way into Trinidad, the United States, what they talking about?
Acceptance of a UNC government in Trinidad, which is heavily populated by a certain ethnic group. Why? This is a rival day. Congratulate the people and move on.
Yeah, they're out to make mischief, and they will want to cause the divide. This racial unity that formed in Trinidad and Tobago, they worked the same way with the PPG government. They had worked their way to take anything and twist it to create a racial divide. You know, for the sake of, and they act like they get the best benefit of it. The little crumbs that they get from the PNM, they think that is the cake. But look at it, compare in comparison to the difference in the style of management, in the way the people is treated, you know, the goods and services that is delivered in a more effective, efficient way, and the bastards have the audacity to come and still talk this nonsense. Now, what caught my attention and got me really upset is the fact that people are so overly concerned, Dr. Maharaj, that the government is granting FULs for citizens, law-abiding citizens, to defend themselves. They're not panicking about the criminals running around the country with heavily ammunition, right? Sophisticated weapons, and the latest they have better than the police, and they can offload hundreds of rounds within a minute or two. They're not panicking about that. The criminals wreaking havoc in the country, but they're not panicking about the access that criminal has with weapons, but they're panicking about a law-abiding citizen can get a pistol permit to defend themselves, right?
Yeah.
This is the level of hypocrisy. Right. This is the level of hypocrisy that we see in Trinidad and Tobago.
Take a little further, you'll see what this biasness arriving. Let me call them. I don't want to call them French Creole or 1%ers or something like that.
Whatever they are, it's a total amount of hypocrisy.
But it's some hidden agenda that is going on with the powers that be, not the political power, but the economic elite. I want to say. So they talk about the prime minister is on the defensive with her stand your ground law. Defended against whom? Against what? She's the government. She can't defend nothing. She needs to tell you what it's going to be. What defensive? What defending against whom? Or what? Who's in government? You 1%ers? She is in government. She has to defend nothing. She has to lay down the groundwork on what is in the best interest of our people to defend themselves against marauding gangs and hooligans who are invading people's property, taking away everything, and things that you saved for hundreds of years and kept it for your generation. Overnight they took it from you.
But
and they loaded up in your vehicle and they went away with it. And you're going to tell me about that is defensive? She's on offensive, man. Not about defensive. Yeah. She's on the offense. You on they're on defense.
Certain people
they're
have
playing defense, and she's playing offense.
See, certain people have benefits that they can. Nobody's attacking them, right? If you notice, how many people are attacking the 1%, right? But I said many years ago, the day that Indian people and African people unite, PNM dead. I said that many years ago.
Of course, certainly.
And this is what we saw here. I mean, a lot of Afro-Trinidad was threatened by their own people, and they came on the public and said it in the public media and said it. They were threatened. In fact, the guy who sang UNC when everybody wins, he said it. He was threatened. He was bullied. You know, that is very shameful to know that we could spend the rest of the year whining and dining with each other. But when it comes to making the right decision for better governance in the country, the race comes into factor. You know? So,
let me just say one more thing from the editorial again. And they kind of end up somewhere down the latter half in the end. It says it is an objective which all of TNT can benefit from, and this includes the political parties, large and small, in opposition to the one which represents the core of the Indian Trinidad population. Back to the racial thing again, they're not backing off. And finally, if a political amalgam led by those who arrived from India can hold together, oh, they're wishing, oh, it can hold together. It will be an example to the nation that there is a value in ethnic cooperation. Oh, so if they can hold together, so they're still guessing around that if they can really, that sounds like they're hoping they would not hold together and prove them right. This is a bad editorial. I
We
don't
should
know
not
why these people, and
allow.
you fellas from the University of the West Indies, they will read this thing and just swallow it. You see why I'm attacking it? Because I'm an academic, so the academics see the things in a different light. Because they see the hidden agenda. If you don't, you cannot use. I think someone talked about 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional. You can't use 2-dimensional or 1-dimensional thinking to understand what is behind all of this. They're claiming, oh, this, as though, you know what they're saying, as though there's a fight in the ring and they're watching on, and you know, all you just come in, all you have to prove all yourself. So far you're doing good, but I worry about the future. This is what they're telling us, and they wouldn't. Oh, they would. You want to bet if I attack them, this way they'll come back and you take them out of context. That's what they tell me. You take them out of context. No, I read everything and I take this one because this is the one that you create the most amount of havoc with. So, thank you, Gary, for sending me that. And I'm a little upset when I read what these people are writing. And it's not the first time I'm questioning about the thing.
Develop your voice. We have to have a voice too. This is why this platform is here. Because you see, for the last couple of years, there's been so much racial insinuation and kind of topics there, you know, that we're pushing this racial agenda, you know. But I am very proud of Iowa George when what he did in the last meeting. He really ambushed them with his stupidness, you know, because his station was used to push the worst. Oh, go and jump over their fence and attack them and all this kind of nonsense. This is the kind of thing was being you know, by people on his program, on his radio station. So I'm really proud to see the changeover with him there. And he had these guys, Heavy NTC, were working, you know, very hard to bring that unity among our people and to see a better picture. So, you know, these are the things that I am proud of. Listen, we were able to form a government based on understanding that we need to work together. And these people, and there's so much unity among our people in the UNC here that we must not sit by and allow anybody to come and try to divide this unity. You know, we must jump right back at them, you know, fire right back at them for their nonsense and call them out for their stupidity. Now, we have a prime minister that is seeking the interests of all our people. I mean, just looking at that conference, press conference yesterday, and to see how cordial and engaging you know, that this government was, and not you know, before, like how we had, you know, and you're free to ask a question and smack around, you know. So we in good standing. We are heading in the right direction, and the government is working to get the best for the people. And there's a lot of work being done behind the scene, and I want to encourage and support that. And I would not sit by idly and not say anything and allow these people to try to damage this government.
So, Gary, let me make this point to you since you're saying that. I know I might say things tonight, and all of you would not agree, and that's fine also. Because the PNM, as a political party and a government, has done a few good things. I mean, you could name them if you want. You could, for example, they gave it a try. Pointley says they could have been more successful. They didn't, but they gave it a try. Good. Okay, we give you a D pass for that. Okay, fine. We you know, they bring free elementary school, secondary school to almost everybody, and the UE was almost kind of free. Okay, excellent, good. But the other stuff, nothing. You know, the PNM was fine until Rowley took it over, I presume, because the description you just gave about the Rottweiler behavior, that dog barking behavior, is you start to ask the question, and he started to go down the road, down the hill, man. He's going down. And he halfway did lie, halfway did making them up, and dishonesty is all the way. So he have taken the PNM back. They have taken the country backwards. And we don't want to go back. We want to go forward. So the people of the country, as I said, all races, all religion, everything, I say, you know what? We're not going backwards anymore. We want to go forward. And this honorable prime minister and her party seems to have, and the coalition, of course, seems to have some our interests at heart, and they want to take us forward. Oh, we can't go backward. Let's go forward. And
This
therefore, they decided to
this
give
prime
these
minister
people a chance
has
to
a
do it.
yeah. This
Yeah,
prime minister has a vision. This is a caring prime minister. I mean, she has a heart for the people. She has the best intention for the people. I mean, in fact, far as I see, she's the best prime minister that ever hit Trinidad. She put Bass and everybody in the back seat in her performance. Let me tell you that,
right,
and you will see that.
right,
You will see that materialize what I'm talking about.
right.
Um,
So that's my first point. That's the first point tonight. My second point to you all is again in the theme of Indian rivalry and Indian people in the West Indies and in other parts of the world. Because we all left India, our parents and grandparents, my grandparents rather, and great grand and king left India in search of a better life for themselves. And only about 30% of them returned back with some cash in their pocket as successful immigrants. A few of them returned badly worse than they came, and that was badly, but that will happen in any migrant group. So they migrated to the West Indies and make the best out of it. And so far, if you could do the counterfactual, Trinidad would have never been so successful if not for that this element called the East Indian, as they call them in Trinidad, East Indian elements or East Indian people. I'll talk about it a little bit later. Again, I disapprove of calling me an East Indian, and I'll tell you in
you
a minute.
referring to the East Indian contribution to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago and the
That's
structure.
historically fine, but today don't call me East Indian. You ought to call me something else. So I'll talk about it in a moment. But the last night, yesterday rather, it was sometime during yesterday, there was the spelling bee competition in the United States. You all know, those of you who listen from outside Trinidad and those of you in Trinidad will know that the spelling bee competition, which is a national competition for the best speller in the land, for children year group, not maybe I think it was 18 and 7, some 16 and below, something like that. And uh, out of the 30 times, I think the Indians won 30 out of 36 times the spelling bee competition. Um, so I listened to it last night. The words that there were real tough words. I couldn't spell some of them, of course, but they were real ones. These Indians at it. They're now trying to study why it is that the Indians can study and most of them, their parents, they have 2 and 3 languages, and the English is not maybe the first language even. But yet still, the descendant who are first generation Americans are winning the spelling bee left, right, and center. There was one Jamaican girl who some 12 years back, I think she was all. I don't remember if she came first, second. It could be first or second, and I was proud of her being a Jamaican girl from the West Indies. But the spelling bee is dominated by the children of the Eastern immigrants, the Indian immigrants from India, and that's a known fact. And how it is that these people could be excelling this way and not only that, they're excelling in science and engineering. And they have their own Sputnik in their own, I call it Sputnik, that was supposed to be good Russian. They have their own satellites in space. In fact, they have already have a base in the South Pole, and they have a base. They have a base in the south, one of the poles. I think it's the North Pole
No,
where they expect to find water.
no,
They have a satellite.
the South Pole of the moon.
One of the poles, right? Was it the south or
The
north on the moon? On the moon.
South Pole. They were first to land in the South Pole.
Right. So they have a satellite there. And they're still looking for. They expect to find water, and they were the only country that did that. America went in a barrel piece. I don't know where the Chinese going if they arrive or they never arrived. But the Indians are sitting there. They were sitting there searching for water, and I don't. They have not gotten any yet. But they might find frozen oxygen water that they could. I think it is not conclusive whatever they find. But the point is that you cannot. The West Indies must use all the ethnic population, but today is the ethnic day, so let's talk about that particular group. They must use these people to their full potential if they want to get ahead and beat everybody else. And that is why I was telling you the other night. that I don't know where Trinidad went off the cliff, but it used to be the central financial agency, agents of the Caribbean. And they looked towards that financial center so much so that many of the investors went all over the Caribbean and opened banks in Guyana also. So the
Well,
the
listen to me.
Indo element of
Let me go
Trinidad
further.
should be used properly and effectively, so all will benefit. Just like the prime minister says, when they win, everybody wins. When the the UNC wins, which, as the paper said, is a majority Indo population. When the UNC win, or when the Indian win, everybody wins. This is
Doc,
the Indian
in
Day. This
today's
is what we
social
say on the
media,
Indian Day.
in today's social media, someone was mentioning when she said everybody means she don't mean we, right? This is the kind of nasty thing that's going on
No,
in
no, yeah, of
propagating,
course.
so right?
Oh, yeah.
But
Of course, of
what
course,
has
of course.
kept you and I know what has kept Trinidad and Tobago, behind is because this kind of bureaucracy and discrimination within the government services. When you try to apply for anything, there is so much how to say discrimination. Let's call it what it is. That kept people that they had to leave the country in order to really better themselves because they were so restrained because of the level of discrimination that they with the people within the government. And we have to face it. We have a base in the PNM that is totally racial, right? And this is what eat them up because of the level of unity that came towards supporting the UNC, recognizing, just like our Minister of Homeland Security says, that he listened to various leaders and he decided to support the one that's more aligned with his values. You understand that? So,
Yeah.
so I mean, a lot of people align themselves with Mrs. Visesa because they share the values of what she is talking about, and they also recognize her performance in the previous 5 years. That
Yes.
what she delivered in comparison to what Dr. Rowley led administration with the only Indian, the only honest Indian in the country, Rohan Sinanan. Rohan said he was the only honest Indian in the country, is in the PNM, and that was he. All right. So all this kind of hypocrisy. In the meantime, money spending, large sum of money spending, and you can't see the performance and the results with it. This is what we ended up. But go ahead.
So, this is 5 years ago. I was talking to some people and I said, this is the Indian century. And ever since I said that, more things began to happen. The other day, the war with Pakistan that India engaged in, India realized that they cannot depend on the Russians much anymore to give them technology. So what they are deciding to do is to build their own fighters, jet fighters.
They're years ahead of, they're miles ahead of that by now. They're really advanced.
So and they want to have one of the because really India doesn't spend much of the GDP in fighting machinery, fighting kind of thing. But what happened is that the other side is Pakistan is being armed by most likely the Chinese apparently, and India used to be armed by Russian, but Russia in so much tight space these days. Russia can't help anybody else. They need help themselves. So India kind of stand alone really with America. When America hands off these days.
India has
So
gone a long way from
now they
Russia a long
realize
time.
they cannot. Now they realize they cannot depend on anybody. They have to do it themselves. And maybe thanks to Mr. Trump that everybody started to look for their own self-interest. And that leads me to an important point, because you all mentioned just now about the billing people, using their initiative. I have always mentioned is that the Guyanese people mostly run away from Burnham in those days and build up Richmond Hill, and you know how that story goes, and you know all about that. So So,
I,
so,
I
so
mean,
the
we knew
loss,
what happened to the Guyanese people there. We knew what happened to them. How they were brutalized.
yeah, the loss of Guyana is the gain of America. America has been doing that all along. America has been attracting the best of the world, and that is why America is such a great country, because they know how to attract the best on the world, and they have the system to do it. So here's a suggestion to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. America doesn't want the Indians anymore because of the internal policy and all kind of problem they're having now and all of that, because sending them somewhere. So what Trinidad could do is to try and give them scholarship, attract them to come to the West Indies, to Trinidad, and help them with the space program and help them with the computer software engineering. I mean, no offense, Mr. Summit, I know you're good, but I don't think you're good as those Bangalore guys. I mean, prove me wrong. But those guys fill the Silicon Valley here in California. You see them here in Pachai and all them guys and them. Look at them. Vikram Pandit run Citibank for many years, come out of India. And many people all over you could name a good handful of Indians all over the America coming from, and they come out of the Institute of Technology in India.
Correct. IIT
So,
and IIM.
so
You
if
know,
I was
that's what is
Trinidad
taking place.
government,
The president has
if I was
revoking. He put a restraint on visa and student visa. We could absorb that. We could benefit from that. We can capitalize on that
yes,
by
that's
expanding
right.
the David
The
campus.
America lost is Trinidad gain.
Exactly.
Just like Guyana's
Plain
loss was
talk.
America gain.
Plain
We
talk.
could twist it
Plain talk.
around. That's what we need to do. Say, America, you falling on the job. You stay behind. We want to get ahead. We'll take the engineers in our country, and they already have a few of them in the university here. They have a few engineers from India working there. But you want to attract the top of the cream of the crop. Give them really perks and incentive to come. And this is not a PNM kind of PNM, not so smart,
But
so we don't bother. We don't even talk about them. And even they take over power again, which shouldn't happen. But let's say they take over again, I would tell them the same thing. Why you all don't call the engineers from India and build your own country? Because that is what you're lacking in. You don't have the skills to
they
build
don't
the
want that.
things,
They don't
the
want that.
AI and the EV, my good friend here, someone does always refer to those kind of AI kind of stuff. Call the engineers from India, they will help you overnight. Go ahead, Gary,
Yes.
because I want to continue.
Okay, well, let me tell you, in India, there's so many smart cities already in existence there. How come a poor, and I say poor with inverted commas, a poor country have the ability to have smart cities, right? It's because of one thing. It's called Indian mathematics. Indian mathematics is based on zeros and one is the computer language that has always been used in today's world. Zeros and ones. Binary mathematics is Indian mathematics. And these people have pioneered the study of this mathematics, right? And that is why they are so advanced in all these engineering fields, software engineering, computer engineering, or these analytical skills. They are way, way superior to most of the average persons because of their indoctrination to an education system that was primarily focused on binary mathematics, which is the computer language today. So they just imagine they have years ahead of them,
Sorry.
and I experienced it in university as well. A little young girl, probably 19, 20, she will always whip my butt in mathematics, and I think I'm a very good quantitative guy. And then when we graduated, I asked her, I say, how come these things? Oh, he said, oh, no. We studied binary mathematics since we were 3 and 4 and 5 years old. So at age 20, you could imagine what they are in that mathematics field. So anything pertaining to science, physics, using any sort of quantitative analysis, they are very, very strong in those areas. And if you look and see, most of the students in higher education, masters and PhD levels, going into any of the STEM fields, most of them are Indians. Here in the US. Here in the US. They don't study philosophy and sociology and these things. No. They're into the scientific field or medicine.
So there has to be something innate, ingrained in these people coming from that part of the world. Let me
I
give you
don't
an
know, Doc,
example also.
you think they have better dal and better bhaji than we?
Maybe, yeah, maybe that dude does a lot of stuff that is maybe helping them. But the great books that they wrote in the past, I mean, Sanskrit is the mother of all languages. I mean, they came from a great civilization. They were already a civilized people before
Yeah.
when they were really robbed of their richness. But because again, I mean, India doesn't spend a lot of money in fighting wars. This is not how they operate. They believe, and they meaning us. I mean, if you ask me, also, I mean, I'm a Maharaj,
Well, we have
but
different,
I still believe every river leads to the ocean, no matter what really good religion you belong to. God bless you. Fine, let's go. So here's here's the thing about it. On my I have two nephews. He says they're all in the field in Trinidad, and the professional, the dentist and doctor. They went to Irie. One went to Irie, and one went to Nap. I forgot where the other one went to. Naps or someone in South
That's
colleges.
where we went to. That's where I went to myself.
Right. So yeah, right. So they would when they do things like history and social studies, they barely pass and they get in close to an F because they're really not. But the maths, biology, physics, oh, that's 100,
Same thing.
95, 100, all the way down.
I can vouch for
They
that
can't
because
do
I
history and they
went
can't do social studies.
I went through the
They
same
fail in
thing.
those kind of classes.
I'm leading up to that point when social studies and literature comes around.
Yeah.
All of a sudden from 1 or 2 down about 8 or 9.
Right. Yeah. So I said, well, with me, I am a mix. I'm in both. I could jump back in either one because I cannot good in both of them. Or I would say mediocre in all of them. But they're very, very good in the more science subjects, and they're very poor in the social studies kind of more softer sciences. So, so I just saying. So this is so many doctors and here doing research, and they're teaching and the research here. I mean, look, we have two of them right here, Haroom and Dr. Ram Samuj. I got his name right. I didn't see him for a while.
Ramsarup.
Ram
Ramrup.
Sarup, sorry.
Ramrup. I'm
But
sorry, Ramrup. We're talking about Ramrup.
these
Yeah.
guys, brightness come out of them. If you listen to how they speak, they economize on the words and they have to the point and they having deliverables. I mean, my good
Well,
friend,
that's the thing.
my
Before we get to the Indians in India, right? We have
right.
Indians in Trinidad that are highly qualified and being suppressed.
Even sure, I agree.
Okay, they are
You
being
might even get
suppressed.
someone. You can get someone in America.
So the reason that
Some Indian, West
Trinidad
Indian,
is
West Indian.
so behind is because we have qualified people like Dr. Ramrup and a lot of intelligent people that cannot get too far in life because the PNM have designed a structure to keep you restrained. That is why our people had to leave the country to really exceed. So we have a prime minister now that's creating equality on the ground there, and that is going to be a big threat to a lot of people. Okay?
Yeah.
So everyone wins, everyone is equal at this point. So I mean, she just needs some time to get things reorganized and restructured. And we see that they are refusing to resign in the various boards and try to give her a hard time. But she is patient and she will be very forceful when the time comes. She's given them the chance to resign these boards because they're trying to obstruct the government already. Right? So we have to look out for Trinidad first, right? So the thing about it is the point I'm making is the Indians in Trinidad have been heavily suppressed by this corrupt, prejudice kind of structure that kept our people down, number one, because we were so restrained that some of us had to leave the country. Just imagine we used to have 1 and 2 hour Indian program in the evening for a country that had 50% of the population, right? So so there has been a lot of discrimination that we had to battle that kept the country. Just imagine the level of discrimination against the farmers. If you look at the farmers and the simplest things, they make it complicated. And who benefits when the Indian people and African people divided? Who benefits? Right? The both race loses. Right? Who got rich in the country? A certain quality of people. Right? Who's getting robbed? Is the Indian and African getting robbed, slaughtered, and you name it? The crime. Who has been the most victim of the crime? Is the Indian and the African people. Right? You don't see 1% getting robbed because they had the best security. Right? The government, this last government, paid X amount of money to protect themselves. So the few Indians that was in the government there, they sought themselves. They didn't look out for everybody. So now we have a government looking out for everybody. They're trying to badmouth the prime minister and try to give her a hard time. But like I said, people like you and I have to go right at them when they come with this nonsense. But go ahead.
But here's another thought that I heard the prime minister saying that last night about, and even before that, she said that most people are resigning doing the honorable thing, and I myself came out of board, and when government changed, I had to resign. So, what I was thinking about she's saying that, I say, you know what? Why not they stay in there and let the answer for the wrongdoings? Don't leave yet. Stay right there. Wait. I'll fire you later. Not yet. Wait there. I want to answer. I want to ask you some questions. I want to account for where the money goes.
They will obstruct the investigation. I mean, you can't have them there. They could still answer.
No, we could fire you in the morning if you want. But we wanted to stay there because we want to ask some questions.
No, we could still prosecute you. So you still have to give account.
Well, if you're inside up there, you want to catch you. You have to tell me where everything. Show me where it is. You say it is there. Show me. So I want to find it. But if you leave and go and say, no, I left it, somebody took it. No, you're still here. Where did it go? Just a thought saying that someone should stay back and really let their account for the wrongdoings, which you'll eventually find anyway. There are lots of wrongdoing to come yet because you see, these people believe they have a fundamental right to rule because they were doing the biddings of those same papers people were referring to, and those I don't want to call them French Creole or what you want to call it, whatever name you call them.
Eric Willem give them the right to do that. Eric Willem give them the right to rule, regardless of who is there. Eric Willem give them the right.
They had the that is this supposed to rule. You all are marginalized people. You're from the gutter. You're from the cane field. Go and cut your cane and shut up and suck your juice and make and drink your rum and quick one. They still say drink your rum because we drink rum because we make rum.
Well, we drink rum because we make rum. We buy the rum.
And we buy for it. It's a good thing we buy that rum. You can employ a lot of people from the rum. The rum business is one of the big business in Trinidad. The biggest small business is the rum business. They had more rum when the Indians come to around the middle of the 19th century. Princeton had more rum shop than any part of the world. Why don't we have some rum shop there? Because they had customers. That's why you open. So every corner was a rum shop. Just like Richmond Hill here, you'll see a lot of shut down over every 3 block you see a big rum shop, a restaurant, and usually owned by somebody from Guyana who had a business down there and decide to say, you know what, I want to go back in business one day. Because that is the American dream. That is the Trinidad dream. When I joined the police force, I told myself that I only spent 4 years in here, but I'm going to seek my fortune somewhere else. So I want to get a good start here and moving on. Yeah, and exactly what happened. The same way a lot of people, they went in, they work for the government or they work for themselves. They work in the estate and they say, you know what? I will want to have my own cane farming estate. That's what my parents did. They never wanted to work for nobody. They want to have their own sugarcane estate. They want to have their own sugarcane, have their own mule cart and donkey cart and bull cart, and then later on farmers to transport the canes. And they employed people. We have people employed almost right around in the off season. We have them cutting the soil between the sugarcane, the grass, the weed from the sugarcane, and then the crop time we need them a whole lot because that's why we had the Americans come and stay by our house because we couldn't get cane cutters. So we took up 2 Americans from 5th Company. We call them Americans. Those are the soldiers from America who came after the British Civil War with the Americans. They came and lived in Trinidad. And they call them Americans. They say about a lot of them around these days all over Americans there. This girl talk about them, the the present member of parliament for Mayor was Mayor Tablan, Moruga Tablan. So here's I have two important things to talk about, and I could talk some other stuff after this. But let me just say the first one. The first thing is I noticed Trinidad people calling people like me the Indian man. I am no damn Indian man, please. Or the African man. My brothers could speak for themselves, but that is also wrong. The best title I gave the speech some weeks or months ago. Nothing was one. I think it was Arrival Day. So I asked them why you celebrating the Arrival Day in New York City. Anyway, the point I was making then was that we are Indo-Trinidadian. We are not behind anybody else, but we are side by side. We stand. We don't stand one in front, one behind, like the Caleb that the chutney guy sing, one in front, one behind the next. No, we stand equal, shoulder to shoulder to everybody in Trinidad. Never mind, we came from the valley line. We came from the sugarcane roots and the estate jungle of Varpo. We are come of age. We walked our way out. Our parents made sure we had some level of education because there was salvation in education. And don't work as hard as I have worked, but your life should be easier than mine. And we tell the same thing to our children that their life should be, and that is the great Trinidad dream. You want to talk about a dream? That should be the Trinidad dream. Oh, it is still meant to many corners in Trinidad. That is, I saw many of you have experienced like that. I've heard of this kind of experience where your parents want you to be better than them. And Gideon, that's why you all are. Many of you who are listening tonight, that's why you are better than your parents, because the parents made sure you get ahead. Let me continue what I am doing, but you do not do what I'm doing because this is really hard work. If you can get it, but nothing wrong in hard work. Did I ever tell? And that is why you see, when I was a police officer, in my office, I was going to the cane fields and help my parents. I'd have to learn. My father would tell me, no, don't do it. You already work there. No, I want to do it. So I kept on back. I went back into the fields. I would even drive the farm all around and that day to help them moving around a bit. And they like it. I wouldn't work all day, but I would work a good part of the day. So it's because this is instilled within you, hard work, and you just can't see anyone around working and you don't work. It's kind of insulting. It's kind of it's against your etiquette. It's against your behavior. It's against not religion, but it's against the way you grew up. You're brought up. See, the last major point tonight on this Arrival Day. Let me just finish this thing on the. So I am an Indo-Trinidadian, the Calypsonian. No, he's not the chutney guy, Gadraj from Guyana said it best. I am an Indo-Caribbean man from an Indo-Caribbean land. Answering perhaps my good friend from San Fernando, Black Stalin, the Caribbean man, on the same ship, on the same trip. So this boy, Terry Gadraj, no doubt, trying to create an atmosphere or a lineage that we came from the Jahaji came from the same ship on the same because I'm an Indo-Caribbean man from an Indo-Caribbean land. So call me Indo-Caribbean, call me Indo-Trinidadian, call me Indo-Guyanese, but don't call me Indian. That's you're talking about somebody else when they call me Indian. And even East Indian is kind of not too tolerable either. The East Indian man. It would be Afro-Trinidadian, Afro-West Indian, or an Afro-Jamaican, or
Why not
Indo-Jamaican, or
Mr. So and
Indo-Ghanaian.
so, regardless of the race, has to be?
Say again? Why what?
Just call him man Mr. John or Mr. Maraj or whatever it is. Why you have to
No, but they
refer
don't. They
India?
don't. You see, they don't. Yeah, we could, they don't. Don't call, never call, never. But the following a lot what happening around here in this. Sometimes call them backward America in that regards. They had to put a title handle to what you are. What kind of American you are? You are Indian American, Afro American, Black American, Brown American, Indian American, Asian American, Sino American. Oh no, put a title to it. But some of the other side will tell you why put a title. Just call it American. No. We have to say what it is. And the census classify like that anyway, so to tell you where they're going all about. But we in Trinidad is less sensitive to those kinds of things. So we should not be calling in East Indian man. Don't call me Indian and don't call me East Indian, please. Call me Indo-Trinidadian. That is the traveling towards recognition, as the paper is talking about. We have to prove that we are equal and worthy to be equal Trinidadians and Tobagonian, or else we ain't do it yet. So now we have an opportunity. We already did it and showed you already. Bastille Panda show you how they could do the damn thing with 20. They already did it. And he beat all the 3 times. Oh, the second time, all it took it away from him the third time. When he was the 18 tie. He had the most votes and he was still in government. He should never throw him out. All the throw the man. He win 3 times. Even the first time it went thanks to Robinson, led him 2 seats and eventually took it back. And then he win again in 1999, 2000. I voted like I told you the last time. And then he won again the 18 tie. And where we could talk about that. One of the things, we have a lot of betrayals among our own selves in many cases that doesn't make the country better off when Indian fight Indian either. Just like African kill African doesn't make the country better off. The country will be will be much better off if this any kind of fighting with each other doesn't happen. Or it should happen very, very rare. Some
Listen,
stupid thing could happen, but
human
really no.
beings will always have disagreement. I mean, there's that
Yeah.
disagreement within your
Okay.
own blood and
Yeah.
family, right?
Yeah.
But it's how you address the disagreement and how you sort it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we can't say there will never be disagreement. Listen, I mean, a person being an Indian doesn't make it that he's actually my brother. We get along. We don't get along with all Indians. So I mean, it's just like some African people. They don't get along with all African people. So the
Mm-hmm.
race, it really is high class foolishness and ignorance. People get along based on values and in things, or in life.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an understanding. You could agree with a person that's not your race. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's maybe this is the major point again tonight is the, the question of, you heard this before many times, but I listened to a lot of people, even even when the president was talking today, address yesterday was when she talked to school children. She came over. I can tell you she came over very well. I don't know if you read that part. I think it was in the Guardian also, where she talked. She was talking to kids about the in the arrival day. Did you read that? Someone? No, Gary.
No, I didn't get a chance to read it. I was.
You take a little read. You might.
I
You might.
glimpsed it. I glimpsed it, but I didn't get a chance to read it because I had a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. But I looked at it to see what she was saying, and because I wanted to get her feeling of what it is. She came over like she didn't come over like those people. She came over like a real concern, like this is part of us, in other words.
But
And of
Doc,
course, she's our parent. She's descendant of Trinidad, of Indian descent. So you might find her approaching it that I was thinking about. Suppose you had a black president. I still like the word again. Afro Trinidadian president, a woman too. I don't think you might have. I could be wrong, but I don't think you have got that kind of rendition, the kind of talk she gave to those children. She talk a kind of motherly, grandmotherly, motherly explanation of the true rendition of our foreparents leaving behind and coming to a new land, not knowing what to see, but coming nevertheless and making it a success. That is the message the paper should bring. That is why this editorial, I should have, I should have Payum around here. He would have tell you what to do to those kinds of people. I mean, he know how to send them up the river kind of thing. No. Payum could have tell us what to do with them. I leave that for him whenever he could tell you what to do with them. So, so the point I want to make here is that you heard that Indians came here and they suffered in the cane field and all the bad things, the thing about you said they met it. Oh, they said the white man is a widow, what if war? The boss man is to whip them and beat them and don't pay them and then put them in barracks and mosquito biting them and this and that. And they had no privacy and they had no wife because only 30% of women, therefore the other one, the crime. So crime was originated because these people didn't have wives, so they had to live with one another wife and share wife and all kind of bad stories you could hear about. And then they said, well, you know, they fool them and bring them here. So if you fool them and bring them here, why they come back a second time? So when I went back home and went back to India and come back on a second tour. So they like fooling. So okay, they were worse than slave. Oh, I see. So they like slavery because if they go and they come back, then they like the slavery is a very good thing because they keep coming back and they took money, they send money home. Some of them send money abroad. While they were working here, they send because they got paid. The condition that they were under was unlike the American indenture system. We could talk about another day if you want to hear about that, and because that is chapter 4 in my book. That I'm talking about the Trinidad and the West Indies and India alone, because somehow before I began to study, I thought this was unique with the Caribbean, that the poor Indian from India, they rob them and bring them here and cheat them out and bring them here and make them work hard and nearly kill them on the way. They died on the way, and then they jump on the Kalapani, of course the Kalapani, and therefore you're doomed forever, and all those bad stories we're hearing. But when David Tile come out with the book, Reverend David, he's at St. Mary's, I think it was the principal or something of St. Mary's College. He traced 7 successful Indo family who came from India and made it big, and there were 7 times 7 anyway. They could still track, and much more than that, who really made it big in Trinidad. And that is the evil that the 1%ers are worried about. But if this government only be fair, they will find that a lot of new entrepreneurs will rise and a lot of rich people are going to rise up, and therefore those 1%ers will lose their position. And that is what the fear is all about. My trade union friends should be taking up this matter, not me. But I had to open their eyes to tell them that you all should be thinking about this. So they're worried that this new 1%ers will replace them. Because when there's a fair, like some of you mentioned this, when there's an open, fair game in a field for us to play, may the best man win, you'll find a lot of those spelling bees cohorts or spelling bee kind of people in the Caribbean will take a lead. Ask the Guyanese, they will tell you. They have Guyana, they have big farms and big estate. They reap, they sow the seed with tractor and reap with what do they call them? I have a name for them. My friend used to tell me about how they reap the rice over there in the big machines and loading it onto the thing and going to the mill and grind it and all being done one. So the point I'm making here is that I'm not saying that because let me tell you something. Did any one of these people write these things tell us about what was the rule, what was the law of master and servant in those days? The master was empowered by the state to put the employees in jail when they fail to perform or if they miss a day's work. Because once you have a contract, they expected to sign up the contract, but they didn't send the employers to jail, they send the employees to jail. So if you didn't show up for work, that's a crime. If the master didn't pay, that's not a crime. That is, they will deal with the government. They'll say, okay, we'll handle that for you. But if you don't show up for work, so the master and servant law was along the same line that the law they used for the Indian immigrants that came to the West Indies and indeed Mauritius and South Africa and Guyana and Grenada and Martinique and St. Lucia and St. Kitts, all these countries, Jamaica as well. But the Indians came with a secured contract. Therefore, they could not leave the employer. Just like the employer cannot fire them, they could fire them, but where will they go? The employee, if they leave them, they're in trouble because you'll breach the contract. Any side breach the contract. So the government it was signed before a magistrate in India, before they came. And the magistrate will call somebody to interpret, even though it is English, they will call an interpreter. who might be somewhere who can speak the language, whatever Telugu, whatever you're speaking in India, they'll interpret this is what it means, and they'll put your print. When you agree, say yes, and shake your head and say yes. In your own language, you put the thumbprint and say, I agree with this document. And therefore it becomes a legal binding document. It's called an indenture. So when they sign the indenture, they will tell you what you have to do, what the pay will be, how many days off you have. They never work on a Sunday. I think Saturday was half day. So they work Monday to Friday, Saturday half day, Sunday off to do what you have to do, and Monday back to work again. It's like all cane fields, you begin very early in the morning, and whenever you finish your task, you go home. We came through that by the estate was near. The estate wasn't far from where our cane fields were. So we know how the estate people work, and we know how our workers work. We can compare the difference between the two. We see how they work. So you're talking to someone who have experience and seen it, but there were lots of indentures. And my one is a little boy, my grandparents. I told you my grandfather was from India. He's from Jaipur. But he didn't come here under that agreement. My grandmother did. He didn't. He came here as a traveler, which means he paid his passage and came. That's what they call him in those days. A traveler is a tourist. When you pay your own and you come to the West Indies, so he came. And he was a pandit. He never really had to work. He never worked the fields as such. All of you would have perhaps gone to my grandmother. I never asked. Gone to my grandmother in the fields also, and maybe had to, like I did when I was a police officer, that I would go in the fields and assist my parents in the cane fields. And I feel good about that. Happy. And my cousins and them, they all help. We work together in these fields because they help each other. We help each other out in the cane fields. So when I lecture in Wall Street and I know where I came from, I look down and see the bull cat to see where this is Wall Street, man. I'm a million miles away from the cane fields of Carapan. Carapan is an estate between Bronte and Lengua. It's a Carapan estate. So I do not agree with the fact that look, they were bad. They were lies. Look, they told lies to some of our parents. They did, because they promised that Trinidad will be a place where you go. Trinidad as in sugar. That is a place where there'll be gold on the streets, and they Indian like gold. So they hear gold and they hear silver and they hear all, because the guy is selling you a product. He's selling you a contract. He wants you to buy it because he gets commission. Every contract he sells, he gets a commission. So it's hype. Just like the salesman with the car, be careful with the lemon law. And I'm a friend, I don't have any lemon law, I don't think so. But there are lemon law here, be careful. We hype. You want to hype your car, you go say your car, no, I wouldn't tell you, my car is very good. Oh, the fisherman says the fish is just from the sea. Damn, smelling. What is smelling so badly then? Oh, maybe you didn't bathe. Oh, no, it's the fish. No, it's you. And that fish just came from the water, lying. You're trying to sell your damn fish. You're trying to sell a contract. You get commission for the contract. So there were some lies. But it's not the main thing. I told you that if they would lie, why come back? If they would lie and bring her here, why come back a second time? that lie, that falling through. And that began with this guy from England that wrote that stuff. All these people from the West Indies following it. Because you know why? They could follow a pattern of slavery. And they could look for the victimhood. So they could put Indians into victimhood. It so fit the narrative, and they're selling books along the line because they fit a narrative and say, yes, that's good. Ready to catch us? Because everybody like to be a victim. What do you think the theory is in America? Victimhood. These rich billionaires are victims. Look, this Mr. Millionaire say he's a victim now. Look, he get fired today. They fire him, or he fired himself. And he walked away. But he's sorry himself. I hear Trump crying for the man that leaving. They're all these billionaires don't know what they call trouble. What the hell are they talking about? I'm talking like one of those black intellectuals. But I understand how black intellectuals think. Well, I agree with them. Many things they said. But those Indian authors and some of those white authors writing along the line, telling that this is a new form of slavery, that is not justified. That theory is not justified. The victimhood. Everybody, you're a victim. Sorry for my grandmother. My grandmother catch a skin and they go, oh, pity. Oh, pity. Let's have a pity party. Let's have a pity party. Because everybody like to play victim. When you are a victim, you get mercy and you get attraction. You want to be more for someone. his parents had such a hard time getting it. Had to import. We are glad for him anyway. That shows that the catch ass from his parents had to really, he had a benefit because the catch ass and all that. Your parents had a good time. When it's the Friday night come and they hit that knock a drum. Man, dong, and they rhyming too, you know. You see all this thing about Sundar Bobon, these things came from our grandparents.
They dilute all the hard work with a few drink and they sing and dance up and they forget everything.
I know them, man. Friday, man, them Nas and Harold and them, man, down in the rum shop, they beat knock a drum, man. They knock a drum and sing a falcock and knock a drum. 4 o'clock in the morning, because, you know, Sunday they are working, so 4 o'clock, they finish Saturday night, 4 o'clock, they're going home to sleep because Monday morning is work. And half of them, sometime Monday morning, they can't go to work because they drink too much. I mean, I know my uncle and my father, we had about 12 employees in all, so we know them all the time. You know, so they drink. But you want some, the American, they never drink. We never know. I never see them drink. Here they drink or anything, no. Maybe when they go home in the village, they will drink, but in Lengua, they didn't drink. They cooked a picture tin of food, and I was telling you about it last time, and they think we're happy to have them work, and we get along fine. I told you about this, my whole parents and the Afro and Trinidadian get along fine. And some of you said the other day that in the countryside, Afro Trinidadian and Indo Trinidadian get along really well. I mean, everywhere I think I get along. I mean, the people in Port of Spain are nice people too. I mean, they are Laventille. I went to Laventille a few times. I don't want to go alone, but I've been up there. I mean, I went there. They were detectives, so we had to go up there for one reason or the other. So to conclude tonight, then, and I'll open the questions. I hope that they're going to ask you some questions about. But I'm telling you, the victimhood thing, and this is what they're writing. I listened to somebody again. They're going through the same victimhood. My parents came from fathers. They worked the sugar cane. They didn't dare. They had to work. Oh yeah, he's feeling sorry for them. If you go back and live in those days, they live a damn happy life. They live in the community, live in the barracks, and they console one another and had the social upbringing and the interrelationship with themselves. They live a damn good life. Why do you think they compose so many folk walking like a drum? There's a song that my great grandparents have heard. My cousins who used to be singing it. Congo, let we go, Manzanilla excursion. You go beat the drum and I go sing the song. Let we go, Manzanilla. Nobody heard that one yet.
The thing about it is, our people knew how to make themselves happy regardless of where they are. They made a life. You know, they could take nothing and make it something. And this is the result of the success. Is because you could have take them out of nowhere and put them, and they would make a.
I mean, many of our business people in Trinidad. I mean, I talk about six families that came directly from India. But the descendant, the Bagwan Singh and this one and Samlal Singh and Kosal and all those big Trey Ram brothers and they're not small contractors. They're big. And they grew up. And if you see the story where they came from, most of them came out of the cane fields. And my cousins still are very big, because of one of the biggest cane farmers in South Trinidad. I mean, when they hit him really hard, when the other day he heard the Kamla giving him money. Well, he's a Kamla fanatic, because not only the money, but they were very happy. I remember when I went down there when they closed down the sugar cane, the fella cursed from morning till noon. And when he finished cursing, they said, well, you would know. I don't want to tell you all this. Yeah, but all morning you're cursing. You didn't know, I know. No, you know, I know. I could imagine. That's one I told you when he went to cassava business. He's planting MX cassava, I think it's MX or XM, something like that. But he planted in a big way and he sells to a lot of things. Oh, they have a lot of market for it. You see what happened right now. Those of you who listen from outside of Trinidad, that some of the things coming from Mexico, they raise the price. Banana, avocado, the things that are coming, the people on Walmart saying they're going to do thing, but this guy is backing off. So all in their arrival day then is worth the celebration. But I really appreciate no one should call me Indian or East Indian. I would prefer to be called Indo-Trinidadian, and I hope my Afro-Caribbean brothers will say the same thing, that they prefer to be called Afro-Trinidadians. So if you had Sino Trinidadian, you want to be that as well. I mean, Gary says that no damn handle. Well, if there's anything, no handle at all whatsoever. But we know there'll be handles. I mean, look at the census. How much of the census asked for a race or anything. Trinidad census, I haven't looked at it for quite a while, but I don't know if they have that some sociological definition of characteristics of people, biological characteristics.
Doc, these things are mostly with the older heads. The younger generation is far beyond that. There might be some older heads that are trying to push this kind of thing, still around. But the younger generation, we done gone past that. I mean, we don't see race and things like that. We are on a different level. So if you
Yeah, but
notice
I
the
know,
unity on the ground there, I mean, in your generation, it was more of an issue. But when it coming down to me and the younger ones, they're gone beyond that, man. That is
yeah.
long gone.
Because just the other
You
day I was
might
speaking.
find some people in Port of Spain area trying to push that. For people central and south, I think they may have time with that nonsense.
Because Freddie Ferreira, he's still around. For a nice man in the 94, 95 years. He's one of those for maybe Portuguese origin or some. Freddie Ferreira is most likely Portuguese extract. But I know. I mean, I introduced him in Faizabad, my good friend here, and I was in the ONR days. He was a little kid that time. Someone.
Yeah,
But I was introducing him in Faizabad Junction. That's Charlie King Khan Junction,
yeah,
and I heard him the other not long ago, about 2 months back. He said that Rujanal Kapili was a unsavored character. By that he meant that he told our Indian brothers and sisters, I think that's what he called them. He told his supporters to arm themselves in the savannah. He said he was looking for a race, a war, a war, a civil war. And that was bad. That is the bad thing he did. Listen to me. I heard that when some of the young boys were coming up in the Pandey in the 90s, and they were telling you, in fact, they who influenced me, there were ministers in the government, and they were saying, you know what? Done with all that SHIT. We ain't no marginal and swooping to nobody. We have rights in this country like anybody else, and we exercising that right. So what Kapili was telling them, listen, don't be afraid. And they even tell him to mash up the computer, the voting machine. Because he said they're going so he was looking for, according to Ferreira, and this was just about 2-3 months back, just during the election time. He was talking about this man was looking for real trouble in the country. It's a good thing people didn't follow him, he said. No, the people from Aranguas went up. They didn't make any joke. They armed themselves. What they armed themselves? What the hell? They're going to cutlass in Port of Spain. That was only a phrase. Nobody went into cutlass in Port of Spain. But he was saying that arm yourself. They did not. The people know that if you're saying something in a figure of speech, to arm yourself, you can arm yourself with words to fight them in a political campaign. You have to arm yourself with equipment. To arm yourself with words, you must be prepared to answer your opponent with facts, figures, and arguments. That is how you win the debate. It's not a physical, it's an intellectual war between two parties. And you're trying to influence the voters' mind. That is what the debate, that is what the fight is over. When you say the army yourself in the savannah, because you're telling Indian people, don't be afraid, don't back down, stand up. And they did. They went into the savannah, 1,000, 13,000, 40,000, whatever 1,000 they were, they went down. The Indians, so in their arrival, we could say all these kinds of things because the Indians. Let's tell you one more thing again. I mean, this is not theory, this is back to some practical things. But I was in theory all along. I was telling you about the slave trade and the allegation of we catch ass and come up here. Listen, this is catch ass was thing. The employer in those days had all the say. The employee had very little say. It was the same thing in England. The same thing in Europe. The same thing in Australia. They had rules for if you break that rule, it's punishment, jail time, flogging time. This was not only immigrants. So what was the difference between the immigrant in India and in the West Indies and North America? During the earlier times, when this immigration thing was happening in the West Indies and happening in America, America was behind the West Indies. The British North America was behind British West Indies. But America went ahead because America was allowed the initiative of the people. The choose was able to choosing who to come because they were choosing based upon the required. They were choosing not that they were choosing physically, but they were creating the wealth was being created by markets being opened up and the money is being made because there were markets outside of the United States. Countries were buying things from America that were gotten, they were buying whatever local produce they could, and America was not experimenting with new kinds of industries. So they were absorbing that kind of indentured labor from Europe, mostly from Europe. If my parents had a choice to go to America as an Indian indentured immigrant or West Indies as Indian immigrant, I'm not sure what they would have chosen. I think they would have chosen the West Indies or somebody, I don't know. Some of them would have gone to America, like some like California, the warmer areas, the Sikh, and then came through from the other side. So our America, America immigrants, indentured servant, who had pretty much along the same line as the immigrants that came to the West Indies. But it was more competitive. The immigrants were going there, they were more competitive. The West Indies were coming with a contract in hand and they stick for 5 years. Whereas the one in America, you could buy the contract, you could because the more valuable, the shorter your contract. So if you are a special blacksmith, instead of doing 5 years, you'll do 3 because your worth is much more higher. So 3 years will make up for the passage of because usually they advance the passage. So you'll come because you have to pay for first thing you do is pay off your passage. And you didn't have the money. So when you come, you work in America and you pay off your passage. They were pretty much along the same line of indentureship. And the same kind of rule, people in America, if you break the rule, you have to some consequences. Just like in the West Indies, you break the rule, you're going to. So we were never told much about the indenture that happened in America. Canada didn't have much of it in the United States. So just along the same line that we were. And I was telling the other, I listened, not some 2 years back, I was listening to the Trinidad television, one of them on the. Somebody said, well, describe the person. He said, was an Indian man about. We have no Indian man in Trinidad. We have Indo-Trinidadians. Or maybe you want to say a man with roots from India or a descendant of Indian. That might be better. But I am not an Indian man. I don't know if the African want to say the African man, that's up to them, but they could talk for themselves.
Yeah, well,
So,
in a criminal investigation, as a policeman, you have to give a kind of descriptive way, but that is something different comparison to the everyday life. With people focusing on race. I think a lot of us. I mean, what happened in the past? The younger generation is beyond that. We're beyond that.
because I feel if America, if Williams, because if William, when Eric William in the early 60s, like maybe 61 or 60 and all that, he had a tour, 650, late 50s or 60s. He had a tour of the villages all over Trinidad and Tobago when he just first year in office. And he went to Monkey Tongue. That's a place in Barrackport. I think it was Sundar Bobo. I told about Sundar Bobo the other, but he born and grew down there. Eric Williams says that Monkey Tongue because he didn't like the monkey. So he said to change this village to Happy Vale. Happy Vale or Happy Vale, something like that. Happy Vale, I think it was. Happyville. They never did it. So when he went to Cullywood, that's a village just the middle of thing, someone might know that area. It is now called Gandhi Village. He said that village should be called Gandhi Village. They took the name. On the advice of Eric William, they took the name and changed it from Cullywood to Gandhi Village. But Monkey Tongue never did it. They kept, I don't ever had a village council or what they didn't have, or they had no unity or what it was. But they still call themselves Monkey Tongue. And I thought that was a good idea, change the name because monkey doesn't sound too well a lot of people. So why not go through you? Boy, Monkey Town boy, right? They laugh at you, that kind of, especially in Trinidad, kind of kicksy kind of people in Trinidad. They laugh at you for Monkey Town. Just so don't laugh at me. It's all called Happyville. They never ask anybody. It did why I don't know people. I hope people know those things that they wouldn't know. Just like I gave you the stories the other day of Rashotia, and I even tell you the story of our mother, his biological mother, he was 1 year old, and when he died, he doesn't know who his biological mother is. He think the lady who grew up with us as his mother. I died, his mother died when he was 1 year old. She saw I know her because we used to go by the house in Lengua. They were near the school, the Lengua Presbyterian School. They were living there. Their grandparents, that's his mother, biological mother, parents, who I used to go by. And if the other I told you all that there was held to a higher standard, if you remember that, I was saying that I'm a Harad son, you're supposed to know better, in the village will tell you that. When they had the day, it was to pass on, like, just throw on the people's day and all that, and one boy, this guy hiding and waiting for me to do it. I come on, you catch me when you raise, grab me, boy. He had a whip in his hand, but he didn't beat me. He didn't do at all. That is son of Bobo uncle. That's son of Bobo mother, brother. Look on me, he didn't beat him. But later the same night, he walking on the road and talking to my father. I say, go tell my father how I did this by the day. The man didn't say anything, but he didn't report me. I had get some beating there that night. But he didn't tell him anything. So all these light moments, I would say that this is a great moment when I listen today, what is going on, and it's a moment to celebrate, really. Just one final thing, final will be last. There was a discussion on whether we should celebrate our rival day or celebrate the cessation, that is the ending of indentureship. Just like the ending of slavery is celebrated as Emancipation Day. You see what I'm fellows thinking? They already thinking along the slave ship line, so it's easy to follow that thing. So in that same line, Gary, they're talking about reparation, that the Indians had to get a reparation also. My Jesus Christ, you come here on your own volition. Nobody didn't rinse you back, and the slaves went through a different scenario. You went through a different scenario. I mean, I could have said, well, if you get money, take money. That crap is not an era. Indian people don't need free money. Give them a level playing field, give them a chance to work, and they will work. They don't want no reparation, man. What the hell are you talking about reparation? For what? You sign a contract and you come. Okay, you were fooled. Okay, we'll talk about the fooling part and see who were fooling you. Find those people. But don't herd me into a herd mentality. You're telling me that I deserve some kind of reparation. And and Gary, they might say, well, okay, because my grandfather came as a traveler and he wasn't early, so my grandmother did, and my step grandfather did. They came on contracts and they work in the fields and they got 10 acres. And
So instead of reparation, they might need some back pay then.
Because the guy from Guyana, the president of Guyana, he already talking about discounted free cash flow. We talk about the discount.
Listen, we know the history of all of us was oppressed. You know what the issue here is? My main concern is how do we work together in building ourselves and eliminate this this garbage in your mind about who is Indian and who is African, and try to create unnecessary obstacles. Everybody has to go to the same hospital. Everybody has to depend on the same police force. Everybody has to face the same supermarket. Everybody's dependent on the same economy. So why the stupid talk? It's that you have to get the garbage out of your head. Now, we know for a fact that our Indian people was heavily discriminated, and we built ourselves so successful on all that pressure. The Lagoon people and the Canefield people send their children to England, right? They open a little shop, they make the doubles or whatever it is, and they better themselves. And today they have supermarket and this and that and the other, right? In comparison to the guy who was getting the freebie from the government, what did he do with his money? The Bible talks about giving a guy 5 penny and 2 penny and what the guy, and they give one guy 10 and what do you do with it, right? So it's what did you do? It has a lot to do with the parental structure in things. That is why we have a recipe for chaos in the country. That is why we have a recipe for chaos with crime, because a lot of people, their daddy not around. Let's call it what it is. These boys have nobody to stand up to them, so they get wayward. How much can the mother do when she have to fend for herself to try to provide for the children? So it's a family structure that has broken down. That's as a result of what we have, where the boys are out of control, and we have a police force that never really stood up to them. When we was growing up, police didn't have to carry gun. Police have a baton. You're afraid the police. That's the uniform alone. You're afraid. There's this younger generation. Them shooting at the police. We're afraid to talk to the police. This generation shooting at the police is a different category of things we're dealing with. So, I mean, citizens have to defend themselves because they come straight up in your house and rape your mother and your wife and your daughter in front of your face. Right? They're just robbing you. So this is where we at in Trinidad and Tobago right now. This is where we at. You know?
So if you start to suppress a people, and the people, like the quotation I just said something a while ago about the innate quality of a person that they have to get ahead, because this is your very nature. This is who you are. This is who you are. You'll find an outlet to grow your skills and initiative, because no matter how I press you down, you find a way. Just like water, no matter how you squeeze the water, you find an outlet somewhere else. It's the same with our human capabilities and our human ingenuity, as coming from the East Indies and these people from not only our race alone, or not only our ethnic, or other ethnics.
Yeah, I mean, crime is an international thing, but it's how, like I say, when some people, their situation, is different. But what I'm saying to you, I'm referring to in particular in Trinidad. I mean, in India, I mean, there's a lot of suffering, a lot of poverty, there's lack of opportunity. Everybody on top of each other's head. But in Trinidad, we have a little more room to breathe. We had a country where there was a lot of freeness, and there was a discrimination in the freeness, in the delivery of the freeness, right? Some people took for themselves, and some people, I mean, it was no equality there. But what I'm saying to you is, we have to walk in a direction where a person must be treated, a citizen must be treated equally. They must be respected. There must be an ease of conducting business with the government. Where you try to go and apply for something, the people are not dragging their feet to do their job. You don't have to bribe them. You don't have to beg them. They have to do their job, and they're held accountable. I mean, all this history, but where are we going from here? Is the accountability and the performance, and the citizens being treated equally and respected. There must be service delivery. We are working towards a higher level of service delivery. This is the objective here. I mean, there has to be proper health care. I don't want to see my people begging in another country for anything, because we have more than damn enough money over the years to build a sufficient standard of economy. In fact, we had first world status in the 2010-2015 period under PPG government. We ended up with first world status in the economic forum. So I mean, we understand all the garbage that took place, all the illiteracy that took place, and we see that some of that is kind to kind of populate itself around, and we have to diffuse that. We have to work on diffusing that, because some people try to derail the younger generation for coming out and supporting Mrs. Bisa, and not taking into consideration what she's trying to do. What she's trying to do, her accomplishments doesn't matter to them. All them seen is race, right? But what good to me as an Indian person if I have an Indian prime minister and he's oppressing me? What good it is to you that you have an African prime minister and he's oppressing you? I mean, how does it look? How does that race become relevant when, like I said, everybody has to face the same amenities? They have to deal with the hospital. The hospital I mean, you go 3 days. We had a lady on the program here. She took the mother to Mount Hope, right? These are the real issues here. And you waited 3 days in your own wheelchair. Lucky you had your own wheelchair, otherwise they put you on a bench, right? And you're waiting for medical treatment. They come and stick you in your hand and cause the hand to deteriorate and nobody knows who it is. There's no accountability, right? I mean, how many cesarean we had women lose their lives? How many babies died? 19 babies recently, like a few years ago. Look at the chaos in the management of this last administration. In the meantime, they fatten themselves. These are the real issues, not race. These are the real issues. These are the higher issues. How do we improve the performance and service delivery of government and the country and economy and make things work good for everybody? You must be able to go to the police station or call the police and get an effective response. You must be able to go to the hospital and get an effective response. Look what we're working on. We're working on reopening those health centers across the country, and it's sensible so that the medical or the general hospital doesn't have to be overwhelmed with somebody have a cold or a simple thing that we resolve in a health center. If you have, so you have to bring the level of service to the people. You can't force everybody into Port of Spain and San Fernando. That is the PNM mentality.
I
You
want to
know,
leave you with a question tonight. And if someone's still there, we not, but I want to leave you with a question.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Um, the question is why it is. I mean, we really want to talk about the PNM, but this last, because everything I'm talking about, because I have something else I want to refer to, so I'll just leave you with this last question.
well, we could continue discussion. I mean,
Yeah, but why is
on
that
another day, if you forget
yeah,
something.
yeah, why it is that only the PNM government, we from America, and that's why we could ask this question. Why it is that only the PNM government have been paying lobbyists. We don't want to talk anything more. You could say all kind of thing about it. Have been paying lobbyists in K Street for the past since about the early 1990s till now. Um, and to the point where the same president, prime minister I talked about the other day, a while ago, he says one of the reasons he gave for paying lobbyists is because he has, or their country has, 230 nationals, Trinidad nationals living in the United States, and therefore they need these lobbyists to lobby on their behalf on the,
In
to,
Washington,
to
in
the
Washington,
in Washington to the federal government. Never hear some crap yet, but that's the crap I want to leave you with. And just to tell you, to spend
you're talking about the guy
18,
he pays some $1 million to work on the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yep. Yep.
While some of us were doing that for free.
Well, he was getting millions, huh?
no, it
Millions.
is
We are,
18,
they shut down
18.8.
they shut down most of the Trinidadians who willingly took an interest in helping their country. All right, we have Trinidadians in all walks of life here in the United States, a very high professional life, like yourself, right? And we didn't get none of us got any support or collaboration from the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so you know how Gopi have their organization and how they work towards um, making India successful is the NRIs who have India where it is today. It's the NRIs, you know that,
Yeah.
right? Because we
So,
was involved
like,
with.
Gary, leave that now. Leave that one, brothers. I just raised that for we could talk about it another day.
Yeah,
But
but
let's
I'm
go
just
back.
saying
Yeah,
it relates to
we're
that.
not going to leave it. We're going to come back to that. So I just want to
Yeah.
tell you that before we get off track, that indeed today is a great day. I'm so happy that we have been recognized equally as equal people, and we have a government who, no matter which government in power, as far as I'm concerned, depend on what they do is important. So I would like the best government for Trinidad that they can have, and may the country prosper and go forward. And please take care of the crime, because it's either for the criminals or you're for the victims. Make your choice. And if you're for the victims, stand the ground law is one that can be a plus. There are others, but we're staying with what our government is right now saying. We have to try something. You try everything, it ain't working. So try something else. Maybe if
But
everybody
you
harm.
have to have the right to deny a person the right to defend themselves, right? I mean, that is high class madness. That
Yeah.
means that you only silent criminals. But like like I said, what we saw in the papers recently, in people writing on social media, they are more paranoid about law-abiding citizens having the means to defend themselves than the criminals running around the country with heavy automatic weapons, right?
Yeah. So that leads me to an important point here that you're making, and that is why we have to stop this because we're going to continue all the way. Let me just say this little last point that relating to us and everything that we talk about tonight, also including what we're ending with. Um, I, I I went to Lengua and I was say I wanted to visit the cane fields that they're abandoned now anyway, but I went to have a look. They still had some of the cane roots still around and blah blah blah. So I walked. My cousin doesn't live far away. This one's a she this time. So I walked to her house and I says, how you doing? Chick, blah blah blah. Listen, I go down to the fields down there to see what I could see. Um, you see, I could have told her give me a gun, but I know she had no gun. Maybe though when time to come, I'll be saying, let me a gun. I want to go into the fields. I say, well, give me a cutlass day. I want to have a cutlass because I don't want to walk. I don't want to admit I'm going down to a field I haven't been 40 years, 30, how many years, 30 years. So let me go. So I asked for a cutlass. In time to come, I will be asking for a gun instead. So leave it at that. Good night. Good night. Gary?
Yeah, apparently, Gary. Well, good night, Doc. We'll probably catch up
Yeah, well,
during the week.
nice, you guys. I rant and rave a lot tonight. I hope you didn't
No,
get
no,
bored
no,
with me.
no, 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 no. It's good. Got a
Yeah,
different perspective of things.
yeah,
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 yeah. Every night we can't be, hitting on the same thing over and over and over
yeah,
again.
yeah,
We don't know how much they are taking it, what we are saying back home or not. So, we can only bring what we know here to
yeah,
the
yeah,
resident crowd outside of TNT who
yeah.
listens to us more, as well as those who listen to us in TNT as well. So
Mhm,
we here for the betterment of all. So
mhm,
I think I had to echo the Prime Minister's sentiments. People-centered government for the benefit of all citizens.
yeah,
Let there be no discrimination. Who is this? Who is that?
right.
But in my personal opinion, I would like to see all those who have done the country wrong thus far
Mm-hmm.
should be caught and penalized.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that does not happen, then why did you vote? Why did the people voted for what they
Mm-hmm.
vote? Then
Mm-hmm.
they should not have voted. If they liked what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
they should not have voted. The fact that they went out and voted meant that they did not like what was going on. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to bring the culprit, to justice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that will justify. That it was a good reason why I voted. I can see now who robbed and raped the country. I can see that how many
Mm-hmm.
millions of this and the head like that. You need to
Mm-hmm.
bring closure to these things, and then you could start to build the country back up again. But
Mm-hmm.
as of now, I want to see all those who raped the country are punished. One way or the other, meaning like you can seize their funds and seize their bank accounts or these things like that. Or incriminate if there is serious credibility of wrongdoing, theft and fraud and what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something is wrong. Something has been wrong somewhere now. Um, Sumit, I understand why you are going to all of this, but I am more interested in going forward rather than digging up some. Oh, but wrongdoing should. I agree with that 100%. But what I'm saying, I don't want to spend too much time behind those kinds of things. Let me hand that over to some group. Let it handle that. I'm moving on with my government. I have
Yes,
important things to do.
that's
Yeah,
right. But whoever is money has to do it because
yeah,
the people
yeah.
who voted this wrong will feel that, hey, you know what, man? It's better wrongdoing does pay. Let's go and do the wrong thing because no one is going to tell us anything. We can't have that mentality psychologically in our mind, and the young people going forward be thinking like that. So that's what absolutely the
But
government cannot.
but a good way to look at it also is cement is you know, in this regard, get a feel of the people by if you see they kind of saying like how I was saying, say, I really want to move on, I want to bother with those people, but I want to keep it. And you see the wind is blowing that way, let me go forward. Because if people want to go forward, let's go. But
Well,
again, you shouldn't
listen to me.
it
You
shouldn't be the
have
first
to.
option at all. No.
We have to retrieve some money because this is not pennies, okay? And
Billions.
we have to do that. But let me tell you something. I mean, this government is not falling short. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and we
Yes,
cannot rush them. We cannot rush them on certain things because they have a lot. They have to find revenue stream. They have to investigate. They have people trying refusing to resign their position, obstructing the government. So there's multiple things going on, and the prime minister, as far as I'm concerned, her team has handled everything very good.
I will share that
And
opinion. Definitely share that opinion, Gary, because you see some state boards has not filed financial statements for 10 years and more. Why?
Yeah.
If you have not filed financials and you are a
I mean,
state
if the
corporation,
borough corporations can give account, so she even called out our own. She called out everybody. She wants accountability of how
yes,
the money spent, and the bigger accountability is those ministers who was in charge of various ministries that you've seen billions of dollars spent, billions spent. This is not joke. And then the little piece of highway, Rowan rush and do their in the Toko Sandy Grande area, they're already falling apart. They went and they opened a hospital which is basically a frame, one floor, and there is nothing there to show, nothing in comparison. And they borrowed 64%, I think, more money than the PPG, and nothing really to show in comparison. And then they want to talk about Kamala, right? And how much she drink and how much she forget to drink, and bring up race and all kind of stupid talk and who's Hindu and who's Muslim and who's Chamar. Who cares? Every man jacket to face the hospital and with bad treatment in the country there.
correct.
Everybody children have to face the unsecure schools. You know, I mean, everybody has to face in the supermarket with high prices. So we have to work. We have a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do, right? And it has nothing to do with these foolishness. We have to make sure people eat in the country. We have to create a revenue stream. We have to boost our agriculture industry so that we can effectively get the good supply that we need within the country, because we are importing things that we shouldn't be importing in the first place. Number one, right? We have to create a mass production of food for the fact that anything can happen in the world and you can't import food. How are we feeding the population? But why are we working out all the oil and gas and all the natural resources, other things and point leases and this thing and that thing, and then the technology and everything else? We have to create a mass production of food. We have to sort out the flooding issues so the farmers' crops don't get washed out with all the hard work they do. Somebody has to have some damn consideration for that. So I mean, we need the productivity there with the farmers. We need to encourage the farmers. We have to make things in a way that the farmers don't have difficulties in sorting out the simple things like the land tenures, whatever they need. When they go to get things done at the Ministry of Agriculture to help run their business more effective, it must not be a long haul process. It must not be somebody sitting in air condition, twisting and turning and acting like that is some king and queen while these people breaking their butt in the sun and then come to try to resolve anything and you're sending them 10 different places. This nonsense that they cut out.
Yeah,
These are the things that we
agree.
should be focusing on, not who is Indian and Chinese and Chamar.
Correct, correct, correct. And
You see,
right,
they
that's
divert from the issues. So those who take in the paper and writing this nonsense about Indian and this and that and the other, I mean, they're full of garbage. And we have to rebut them.
To be continued. We got to go talk and we go talk all night. So good night.
Yeah, gentlemen.
Take
Yeah.
care. No, Gary is right on point. I agree with you
So,
100%, Gary.
Mr. Singh, thank you again very much for
No,
taking the time,
anytime,
joining
anytime.
me here. And with that, I will say good night and thank you, everyone who taking time for joining us.
Right.
I will see you soon.
Okay, man. Take care. God,
Good night,
nice.
everybody.
Thanks.